What is up, guys? It's the Sound Alchemist, and I'm here with
Gersh1.
And today we're back to answer your questions in another installment of For the Greater.
This is a video series where we answer the questions left by you, the viewers. If you have a question for us, simply comment down below, put question in front of your question because we get to those questions first. And if you see us looking down, it's because we're looking at the little microphone thingy to see how loud we are. We're pretty loud right now. So this question comes from Ty Shingleton. He asks, do you guys think that the Mandalorian people / culture could survive in the 40K universe? If so, where would their place be in the lore? Unfortunately, no. I don't think that they can survive. Well, they can survive in the 40K universe. They couldn't survive within the Imperium. For two reasons. The first reason is that the Mandalorian people, the ones that actually came from Mandalore, they were Xenos to begin with. Secondly, Mandalorian, what it is now, is a culture, like a religious...
Yeah, creed, I think is what they said in the show.
Yeah, and that is away from the Imperial creed. There could be a situation... Well, see...
Because you have the Promethean cult, and that's also kind of...
Yeah, so it's tricky because, yes, within the Imperium, you can talk to the Adeptus Ministorum, and they can somehow mold the beliefs of a world to fit the Imperial creed, but I don't know too much about the Mandalorian culture. Like, I don't know if they have a place to worship the Emperor in their culture. If they did, then obviously, yeah, of course, the Mandalorians can fit within the Imperium. They could even be a Imperial Guard regiment. What do you think?
I could see it happening, but a few things would be really weird, because like the whole like Ceramite armor and Beskar armor and all this stuff, like it'd be a weird amalgamation of like at what point does Star Wars like lore and like materials and that kind of thing stop, and then the 40K universe take over.
Yeah.
So like the Darksaber, for example, would that just be like a very ancient relic power sword, or would that literally be like a kyber crystal and all that stuff? So it's really weird to see like where one thing stops and the other thing takes over.
Yeah. So there is a possibility if you guys want to do an Imperial Guard regiment based off of the Mandalorian culture. I think you can within the lore, but like you said, you kind of have to reskin things in order to make it fit within the 40K universe. So instead of having what are they called? The Black Saber?
Yeah, the Darksaber.
Yeah.
There's only one, though.
Oh. So. Instead of having that, then that would just be like a power weapon, like a power sword or something like that. Actually, that sounds like a cool like project, because there are Mandalorian models, because Star Wars has a miniature line. So it would be kind of cool to have like Mandalorian helmets on Imperial Guardsmen. But again, you have to somehow figure out. I mean, I guess you could, because it did come from a Xeno species, you could just say that the Imperium doesn't know about that, and the Mandalorian people are hiding that. The other trouble is that it is a creed that's supposed to be spreading, so I see conflict with the Imperial creed. It would be cool if it was just one planet, and it stays within the planet, but once it starts spreading to other sectors, that's when you might run into a problem with that.
I guess the easiest way would be just say there's a warp storm, around the planet, and that's how they've kept to their beliefs and religion and all that throughout all these years, without Imperial like compliance or backlash. So.
Yeah. Comment down below if you guys have any other factions or any type of character that you were wondering if he would fit in 40K, because we like answering these types of questions. It's kind of fun.
Would Mighty Mouse work?
Mighty Mouse can definitely fit in 40K. He is called a smelt rat. He is the king of the smelt rats. Check out our 40 facts on the smelt rats. But yeah, next question.
You got one?
Yeah, I have one from Erza Swan. Where does Wraith Bone come from? In the lore, the Eldar supposedly sung the Wraith Bone into existence using their psychic powers. This is where Games Workshop stole from Tolkien. Within the Tolkien lore, whenever the gods, I guess they're called, and they have a special name, but whenever the gods created the world, it was supposed to be them singing the world into existence.
Right.
So that's a carryover from Tolkien into 40K, where like the Eldar are singing these Wraith Bones into existence, or they did when it was like when they first started and when they were with the old ones, because of the psychic powers and because of their control with the psychic thingies. I don't know if that's changed, but from the old books that I remember, they do just say that it was sang into existence.
Mm-hmm. And it's like a very strong conduit for warp and psychic energies and stuff like that, which is why wraith wraith constructs are so powerful. You got wraith seers, wraith guard, wraith knights, wraith lords. There's a lot.
They're basically armor that carries the essence of civilizations of the past, which is cool when you think about it. I think GW does a better job of making that more apparent than the Lord of the Rings universe did. But yeah.
They're pretty cool too, because it's like suit of armor essentially is just fighting with like a soul into it.
I think Rubric Marines, but better.
This one's by Cyberpunk Alchemy. If the Emperor is the result of a mass ritualistic suicide of ancient psychers, can we do the same thing to create a second super powerful ultra psycher fusion thing similar to the Emperor? And if yes, what if we gather a bunch of superpower ultra psycher fusion things to fuse into an even more super duper superpower ultra psycher fusion?
I think you're thinking of Power Rangers.
Yeah.
When they do their it's morphin time, and then they like create whatever.
And they morph again.
Yeah.
Because the Green Ranger comes up with his own Zoid. Oh no, that's Battle Sword. Battle Zord?
I can't remember Power Rangers. But the short answer is no, just because we don't really know what the shamans did in order to create the Emperor, and I think the lore is supposed to be so that he's special amongst everyone else, and you can't really recreate that.
Right. But because the thing is, like, if we take a whole bunch of psychers and put them into one being, and then we do that again and again, and then we put those beings into another being, would that at least come close to the Emperor? It's like a bunch of super psychers into one being, and then that super being mixed in with other super beings. I don't know.
Yeah, I think you would be going away from the whole point of or the whole trajectory of where the Imperium is going and where the lore is going. But yeah, if you want to add that to your lore, I guess you can. Maybe make it a campaign, because there was like a thing where the Emperor used to have children, and they were trying to find those children to sacrifice them to bring back the Emperor. So you could do something like that. But again, GW got rid of that because it's not going in that the plot isn't going in that direction anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
This next one is by Dr. Omnis. His question is, would the Horned Rat try and corrupt Roboot Gilliman and make him his demon prince, since he would be the 13th Primarch?
If it existed in the 40K universe, yeah, probably. But unfortunately, it does not.
No. Skaven are stuck to Age of Sigmar universe.
Yeah.
And the realms of fantasy. Like you said earlier, the smelt rats are the closest thing to that in the 40K universe.
Yep. Next question comes from DeFool06. During the Age of Apostasy, did Goge Vandire really get freaky and have his way with the brides of the Emperor? Definitely. I think it's implied. They were the daughters of the Emperor, and now they were his special consorts, specifically switching the name from daughters to brides.
Just a little like...
What do you do when you get married? You...
consummates.
Yeah. So, for sure. But the sad part is that he was a little crazy. So, like, the Sisters of Battle were getting it on with, like, basically a schizophrenic.
Yeah. That's dangerous. Din Tran has asked, do you think that another Tyranid Hive fleet will be introduced? A bigger, nastier fleet with newer broods?
Yeah. I think that's what it... Because the last time that we got a Tyranid update, they introduced...
A lot.
Yeah. Like 5, maybe.
Yeah.
And one of them was the Cronus one. And we talk about it a lot because it's like specifically geared towards fighting chaos.
Mm-hmm.
And you just see that the Tyranids are adapting.
Yep.
So it fits in the lore, and it fits in GW trying to sell things. So.
Yeah, what do you think the next brood would be? Like, what's the next big thing that they would be fighting?
I'm kind of scared that they might try to do something like they did with the Necrons, where they're going to start changing them from being mindless, animalistic, like swarms, to having a leader, kind of like the Necron Lord that has a sentience. So creating a Norn queen that has a name and can do things. That might be in the direction, because they did that in StarCraft, right?
Mm-hmm.
I agree that it would suck, but it just seems that would sell models, because then you have a specific named character, and you know.
Yeah, besides like Old One Eye, the Swarm. Well, Swarm Lord's not named, but
no.
Yeah. I really feel that they're gonna go in the direction of something that has to do with the psychic awakening. So as we've seen, Primaris are being birthed, I guess, and other armies are getting new psychic powers. So maybe they're gonna come out with a strain that's specifically geared towards devouring the warp, or maybe like they could sense or they could smell psychic users. So it's gonna be like a hive fleet that specifically goes to like infiltrate, almost like a gene stealer cult that infiltrates into a certain world, and they just like take out any psychic users.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah.
Next question comes from Bilan Mir. Who would be equally matched with Palpatine from 40K? That's a good question, and we already talked about the guy that I think would fit, and that's Goj Vandire.
Mm-hmm.
Goj Vandire kind of fits in that Palpatine funneled everything into one position, which was his position, the Emperor, and then he gained control of the entire. What did he turn it into? The Empire?
The Empire, yeah.
And that's what Goj Vandire did before the ecclesiarchy, so the church, was separate from the High Lords and their whole thing. He came and he put everything together, and he was technically evil. He's just selfish. Everything was so that he can continue to have control, and that's what Palpatine did. And then on top of that, Palpatine had the belief of the Sith, and then Goj Vandire solidified the belief of the Imperial cult, which, if you guys all remember, the Imperial cult is something that the Emperor never wanted. He actually wanted the Imperial truth. So him solidifying the belief in the God Emperor, yeah, it fits into his little thing.
Right, because I mean, when you think about it, yeah, Palpatine is like pretty strong. He could like overcome, well, spoilers, I'm not going to say anything, but when you think about it, I don't think any Chaos Lord, because that's putting Palpatine too high up. Vandire kind of brings him down to a more reasonable level.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, he was just like a regular dude. Regular.
Next question.
This one is by Din Tran once again. Would there be a creature that can eat and assimilate other creatures into itself? Maybe eat an orc or a space marine and become an orc or a space marine, like in the movie The Thing. I think the closest thing we have to that is probably either the Kroot or the Tyranids. It doesn't happen right away, so it wouldn't be just like The Thing. Tyranids, they adapt based on the genetic makeup of what they've consumed, which is also similar to the Kroot, where they have to eat, but it takes generations for them to get certain traits from the meat that they're consuming.
Yep.
As far as I know, there's no creature that does that right away, but it'd be interesting.
Yeah, and it seems like something that GW should create, especially for like
Necromunda or something like that.
Yeah, or their anything that's like role playing ish.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think you could do that for an army.
No, because that'd be weird.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I can see it working. Like, let's say you have like the easiest way is to be a Tyranid, because if let's say you're a big Tyranid Swarm Lord and you kill an Orc War Boss, like maybe now your toughness is higher or something like that. I don't know.
Next question comes from Mateus Luis Laman. Once a year, a little XMen Snow? Question mark. Sniff, sniff.
X-Men?
Or Xmas. Sorry, Xmas. I wouldn't do that on Christmas. I would do it on New Year's. And it's on the bucket list, which means I haven't done it. But yeah. I don't see why you would want to do that on Christmas. That's supposed to be like a family thing. Can you imagine just being high off that for Christmas? It's weird. Next question.
This one is by Leo2TV. Why is it that in the Star Wars universe they have never faced a problem with the warp? Don't they have demons? Or are they just another alien race?
Because it's different. So the Star Wars warp is different than the 40K warp. The 40K warp, it's almost like an alternate dimension that you walk into.
They have their own, like...
beings.
Yeah, like you have vampires and the Chaos Gods and...
slavers.
Yeah.
Whereas like in Star Wars, I don't know too much about the Star Wars warp, but it just seems like it's kind of like the hyperbolic time chamber, where like it's just white everywhere, to the point where you don't even notice it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And very accurate, because I never saw, like, in the spoiler alert for all those that haven't seen the latest movie, they do like warp jumps like over and over and over, and it seems like he knows the direction. I don't think you could do that in 40K. Like, you can't enter the warp, exit the warp, enter the warp, exit the warp, just so that you get to a certain spot, because every time you enter into the warp, the next person behind you might not exit the same place.
Mm-hmm.
Which is why the Adeptus Administratum has suffered from, like, somebody calling in reinforcements, and then they send the reinforcements, but the reinforcements show up to the place like years later after the attack has already taken place. So yeah, it's crazy like that. The warp be crazy. And those were the questions for today. If you guys have more questions for us, comment down below. If we didn't get to your question, ask again. And if you read some questions that you really like, thumb it up. And yeah, hope you guys enjoyed. We'll talk to you tomorrow.
This has been the Sound Alchemist.
Gershwan.
Y Miguelito Rivera in the background. See ya.
Always used to put my freedom first in anything.